Hello, everyone. Very excited to talk to you today about Parker Dewey micro-internships and specifically their impact on the NACE competencies in terms of career readiness. So a little bit about me to get started, why this topic is exciting to me. Hello, everyone. My name is Danielle Ruger-Morowski, and I am the Associate Director of Partnerships at Parker Dewey. And this is particularly exciting to me because of my background in higher education. I worked in higher education at a few different institutions before I joined the Parker Dewey team. And at those institutions, I became familiar with the NACE competencies, understood what they represented. We're going to talk about exactly what they are if you're not familiar, and just the impact that they have on students having that first successful step into the workplace and really setting themselves up for an entire future of success. So that is me and why I'm excited to be talking to you about this topic. Now, for those of you who are already familiar with Parker Dewey and our micro-internships, we are going to be starting with a little bit of a recap just to make sure that everyone is on the same page. So I promise we're going to get to the NACE competency data. I appreciate those of you who are already in the know sitting with us for the recap. But just to get started, I want to make sure we all know what is Parker Dewey. And in short, we are the micro-internship people. We're the ones that really coined the term. We have been around since 2015, and we are the platform that makes it super duper easy, and we're going to highlight why it's so easy, for busy professionals, for folks who are looking to build talent pipelines, for folks who want to engage talent earlier, to be able to do all those things and more while simultaneously getting on-demand project support. And this all happens in a way that is super accessible and super appealing to students, which is why it works. So I want to break down exactly what micro-internships are, both by highlighting what they are and also making it very clear what they are not. So on that not side, right off the bat, micro-internships are not a long-term commitment. So all these outcomes we're going to talk about today, all these great things, are the results of something that doesn't require a big commitment because these micro-internships, by their nature, are short-term. So instead of a traditional internship, which don't get us wrong, we know have value, we love traditional internships, but sometimes folks don't have time, either on the student side, to commit to something like that right off the bat. Maybe they don't know what they want to do, so they're hesitant to commit. There are a whole variety of reasons why that might either be inaccessible or unappealing for a student who is starting out. So with micro-internships, we ask companies who might also be having concerns about bandwidth, who may not have the time for big supervisory commitments, to identify specific projects. So maybe a company needs someone to go through some insights or go through some data and find some insights. Maybe they need someone to do some research on something they're considering, find some best practices. Maybe they need someone to design something, flyer or an email campaign. These are all project-based examples of great micro-internships, and we see them from all different types of industries and all different types of departments. These projects can be posted at any time of year. We encourage, if at all possible, for them to be remote opportunities because, again, accessibility is a big goal of ours. And as highlighted, they're project-based. So there's a specific thing that this micro-internship is going to finish, accomplish, hand to the company, and say, I have done this for you. I have taken this off of your plate. And part of the other benefits of using Parker Dewey micro-internships is it's easy. So this is not a heavy lift for companies or their hiring managers because we, Parker Dewey, actually act as the employer of record for all of these short projects. Because we know that companies may be thinking, oh, is it worth the time to set up payroll? Is it worth the time to deal with tax forms I may have to do to have someone just do a short project? With Parker Dewey micro-internships, none of that needs to be worried about because we are actually the ones that are taking on all of that burden. Now I am going to keep a little bit of an eye on the chat. I just realized there are some things in the chat that we have folks asking about, and we are getting some help with that question when it comes to logging in. But also just want to make a note too, that I am keeping an eye on the chat going forward. So if you have questions about any of this as we're going through, feel free to put those in there. And if I get behind, I'll catch up at the end. So going back to highlighting that we're the employer of record. So that means once you've selected your micro intern, you get invoiced for the cost of the project, very affordable because they're short term, And we take care of all the administrative burden from there. That means we're the ones that are taking care of getting the payroll information, processing the payroll information, and we are also the ones taking care of tax forms if the student or recent graduate earns that threshold. So that makes it super easy, and companies can also rest confidently knowing that as independent contractors at Parker Dewey, these students are also under an NDA with us. And as mentioned, not expensive. Short-term nature means most of these projects are only a few $100s, and 90% of what the company spends goes directly to the micro-intern. We only retain 10% to be able to cover costs of things like being the employer of record. And this is a great way for companies to engage diverse talent. And for your students who are looking for opportunities but have been struggling, non-traditional students, first-generation students, student athletes, we know those students have work obligations, family obligations, game and practice schedules, just to give a few examples that can make those types of traditional opportunities hard. So all of those students, those very talented, motivated, creative-driven students, are still able to engage in micro-internships, which is what makes it a great way for companies to engage diverse talent. And again, for those who are looking for longer-term goals, finding talent earlier, creating a pipeline, auditioning for specific roles, this is an effective way to do it. So now that we've highlighted exactly what micro-internships are, I also want to do a quick recap of how this works for companies because it is super simple and we are also here to support. But just looking at our poll for who is in the room, I see about 30% of you are companies or employers. So we want to make sure we do this quick recap here. Number one is going to be post your project. So I'm currently logged in as a company, but also going to put a resource in the chat. This is our project library. And I want to make it clear, you are not limited to options in this project library, but it can give you a few ideas of some of those projects that we tend to see most often. So as you're looking through these examples, maybe you're realizing, oh yeah, I have been meaning to have a blog post written. It would be great to have that written from the perspective of a current student about something we're pushing out or about our company. And you can hit post now if these templates meet your needs, and you're going to be able to very easily post one of these projects. Or you could create an account and you are going to be able to post a custom project. As long as it's professional and as long as there's a specific deliverable, there's a really wide range of what could make a great micro-internship. Now, this already went right to the template because I'm already logged into a company-facing account, but want to make it clear, even if you haven't, it takes less than 5 minutes and there's no cost and there's no obligation. So if you haven't already created a Parker Dewey company account for those 30% of you who are companies, this is a great time to do it. You'll be able to make updates, whether you want to change the start date, the end date, add a little bit of context about the project. We do ask you to put in location because some companies are interested in creating connections or students are interested in creating connections in specific parts of the country. And then this shows you the recommendation for the typical projects, also makes it very clear the amount the student will receive as well as the amount that you will pay so there's no confusion. You can even have multiple micro-interns if it's a larger project working on the same project. You can let us know if there are specific skills you're looking for. Maybe you are using this to audition for a longer term opportunity. So you can clarify you want schools that are in your area, because if they do a great job, those students are nearby, they could be able to engage in a traditional in-person internship. And then you get to clarify too, whether you want current students, recent graduates, and we'd love for you to let us know if this is being used to identify for a longer term opportunity. And that's how easy it is to post. So that is step one, super simple for companies who are looking to take advantage of this. The next step, select who you want for that micro-internship. You're going to get a digest email every day that the project is open of the folks who have applied. We use Parker Dewey micro-internships ourselves. I'm just wrapping up a project with 7 micro-interns myself, in fact. So speaking from experience, it's really easy to see, okay, did they fill out their profile? Did they give a good, compelling reason, whether it's enthusiasm, a background, experience, whatever it is, for why I should select them for this project? If they didn't, super easy to hide them. I'm no longer considering them. And it's super easy for all of those who do to add them to my favorites list and then make a selection from that short list. You'll see that you have the ability to send a message if you do have a follow-up question, or if you want to schedule a short interview, you can. But remember, these are low lift, low cost, low commitment, and accordingly, a lot of companies feel comfortable making a selection without having to do any arduous interview process. And this is part of what allows micro-internships to move so quickly and allow you to get that project support very efficiently. And then the work gets done. This is designed to make your life easier as opposed to add to the workload. So we do encourage you to have a kickoff call with the micro intern so they can get context, so they have all the resources they need to do a great job on your project. And this also gives them, even of how brief it is, a great opportunity to get to know you, because that's something that they're really looking for, to expand their network, to expand their awareness of companies and opportunities. And we are here on the back end. If you need any help with anything, if something isn't going how you're expected, if the micro intern isn't meeting expectations, and on the same end, we're here to help the student if anything is confusing or concerning to them. But over 98% of the time, we're not really needed because these micro interns are so excited to make a fantastic impression and do a great job on your project. And here are some of the impacts that we see. Now, these are just the initial ones. Today, we are also going to be talking about the impact on the NACE competencies, but I want to highlight some of these ones that we go over in other webinars real quickly in case you're not already familiar with them. I already brought up that micro-internships are a great way to engage students from historically underrepresented populations, but I'm bringing it up again because I want you to be familiar with the statistics when it comes to traditional paid internships. Because we're seeing 80% of those underrepresented students are able to engage in micro-internships. They're being selected, 80% of the selected micro-interns are from that population. But when we look at paid traditional internships, barely more than a quarter, only 26% are from those populations. And again, we believe this has to do with accessibility. Students from these populations, they want to grow, they want to explore, they want experience, but some of those traditional methods just aren't accessible. Micro-internships are, and that's why they show up. It's also a great opportunity for those of you. I see we've got now the numbers have changed close to 3/4 who are in the higher education space. This is a great way for your international students and undocumented students to be able to get experience as well without companies having to make long-term commitments off the bat. You know, if you are coming from a company who might offer sponsorship, that is fantastic, but it is a bit of a commitment. And this is a great way to test out students from those populations to make sure that commitment is worthwhile. It's also a very cost-effective way of doing things. Campus recruiting can get pretty expensive pretty quickly, often thousands of dollars on just a single hire, who statistically is more likely than not to leave that first full-time role in less than a year. Alternatively, with micro-internships, there's an opportunity, because they're so cost-effective, for some significant savings. And 98% of those recent graduates who have done micro-internships stay in their first full-time role for longer than a year. Now, to be clear, sometimes that's because the student does a micro-internship and goes, oh my gosh, I'd never really thought of this company. I was just interested in the project, but this is actually really exciting to me. I can see me starting a career here and being happy here for a while. And sometimes it's a student doing a project and going, oof, I thought this was where I wanted to be, but I'm learning even in this brief project, this isn't actually the fit for me that I thought it was going to be. And that allows that recent graduate to take that information, find something that is going to be a better fit, and it saves both sides of things time, and it also saves companies money because they don't have to turn right around and start that hiring process again. So for the companies in the room, if you want to see some examples of how we have helped other companies do these things, just putting this in the chat so you can see these testimonials. You'll notice that there are companies of all industries, all departments, all sizes that have example projects. And it all works because this is the way that students want to engage. And for our higher education folks on the call, they can probably speak to this as well. They want to try different things. They want to explore without having to jump into commitments. And this enthusiasm and this accessibility is what encourages them to engage and allows you to accomplish those goals if you are a company looking to engage with different students. And it's what allows students to build those skills we're going to be talking about shortly. So you'll notice when you get these slides, everyone who registered will get the recording and the slides, but you'll notice that each of these links to a story that has highlighted how the accessibility and the appeal of these short-term projects has led students to engage that otherwise may not have known about the company, may not have been interested in working for that organization, may not have had the time to be able to offer the support. And accordingly, everyone wins. The student gets paid professional experience, they're building skills, and the company is addressing whichever one of these challenges they might identify with support from students and recent graduates. And just want to reiterate again, these reasons why it's appealing and accessible for students. Because most of these projects are remote, that means that these students can engage from wherever they have a reliable Wi-Fi connection. So you may be working with students or trying to engage students that maybe just aren't in your geographic area, or maybe they are, but they lack reliable transportation. Even a distance of just a few miles, depending on what the winters are like, depending on where you are, might make an opportunity unavailable to a student if they don't have that reliable transportation. So this allows you to engage that talent. They love it because it's also real experience. This isn't a simulation. This isn't a what would you do if. This is a real need for a real company, and that gives it a level of gravity and realness, and it also makes them excited to be able to include this on their resume. And if the company gives permission, maybe even some of the work they've done in their portfolio. The flexibility is also key for these students. The fact that they get to have that kickoff meeting, but then they get to work on these projects in a way that works around their schedule really makes that accessibility open up. They're still meeting your deadline, they're still doing the check-ins, but the flexibility to not have to be in a specific place at a specific time really helps them have the ability to work on these. And again, they love that they're getting to connect with real professionals, make those connections in a real way. And the fact that it allows them to explore different careers is also very appealing to students, that they get to try something out, dip their toe in the water, if you will, before having to jump right into a longer-term commitment. Speaking of longer-term commitments, however, there are a number of companies, maybe some of the companies on the call are thinking in this way, that are using micro-internships very intentionally as a way to build a pipeline or maybe even audition talent for a specific longer-term role. So while it's never guaranteed, there is the possibility that if a student or recent graduate does a great job on their micro-internship, there might be a longer-term opportunity on the other end. And as a reminder, I know I already mentioned, but I'm bringing it up again because it's so important to students, all micro-internships are paid. And these are all reasons why students and recent graduates are excited to engage. So on the student side of things, very similar to how it works for companies, they create their profile. It takes less than 10 minutes for them to set it up. They see all the projects that are available to them, submit their applications for those projects. And then if they are selected for the micro-internship, they get that information to set up the kickoff call, and they are off and running, doing a great job. And a reminder again, we're here on both sides of things, the Parker Dewey team, to make things easy. We're taking a look to make sure these projects are professional, they're appropriate. And on that note, if you're one of the companies in the room and you're thinking, I'm not sure if my department lends itself to this, I'm not sure how to make something a project, I'm interested, but I just don't know how to take the next steps, we're here to help with that too. When you get the follow-up to this call today, to this webinar, schedule a meeting because we are oh so happy to brainstorm. Again, we are the ones that are going to be paying the students. We're the ones taking on all that administrative burden. So the company pays when they are selecting their micro-intern, and after that, we're the ones handling all of that, again, administrative burden, and we're here to support along the way. We also have resources for students to help them both in the profile setup process and the application process. So really trying to help them be successful. So if you haven't been familiarized with these before, if you are on the student side of things, encourage you to share these first two with your students. The monthly webinar, we go over best practices, how to make sure their profile is set up well and completely, how to respond to application questions in a way that's going to be effective. If you have students that are maybe struggling a little bit, they need their actual profile reviewed individually. We also have office hours where we give feedback to each and every person in the room as long as they get in there before the end of the office hours. So encourage them to come and get feedback if they need it. And for companies, if you want a little bit more of an in-depth how this works, it really is as easy as what we've covered today. But if you just want to see more examples, we also welcome you to come to our monthly employer webinar. We are always happy to help you brainstorm and get your projects going. And we offer support to students both during the project and afterwards to make sure that they have all the tools and resources necessary to make sure that this is off to a great start, including reaching out to the company to get that information, to get all the details and context they need to do the project, And we have resources like that every step of the way and after. And again, we encourage you to check these out. When you get the recording afterwards, when you get the slides, you'll be able to see all these resources in detail. But with that, also want to acknowledge that we are about 20 minutes in, and we've done, I think, a good recap of how micro-internships work, both for companies and for students. Again, always happy to continue the conversation if you have questions about the Parker Dewey micro-internship model. But this is where I want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to start talking about how these Parker Dewey micro-internships are impacting career development. Because we've talked about the accessibility, we've talked about why this is exciting, some of the outcomes, but what I really want to dig into today is how it's helping improve career readiness overall. I also want to add some context as to why that is exciting for all of the audiences in the room. For our higher education folks, the folks who are working with these students and helping getting them ready for the next step of their careers, it's pretty self-explanatory. You want to be helping these students graduate career ready, ready to take on whatever that next step is with the skills they're going to need to be successful. And micro-internships help them do that. We're going to talk about how. But for companies and employers, this is also really exciting for you because you can use these micro-internships not only to get on-demand project support, not only to assess skills that already exist, but this is also a fantastic way for you to build the workforce that you're looking for. So this is where I'm going to recap a little bit about what exactly these NACE career competencies are, so we're all on the same page going forward when we're talking about this impact. So these are career competencies, skills, as defined by NACE, the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And in short, they surveyed a whole bunch of employers nationwide, and they said, what are the things that you are looking for when it comes to new hires? What are the skills that you need students to have across industries, again, across departments? And what you see here on the screen are the things that came up consistently. So companies are looking for hires that have the ability to kind of manage their own careers, to know who they are and what they want. So that's career and self-development. The next one, probably not surprising, communication. Companies are in need of students who are going to be able to articulate what they're working on, what their goals are, what their challenges are, what they need. They need students, recent graduates at that stage, who are going to be able to let them know, here's what I need to do my job well, or here's what I need, or what I'm giving, or what I'm doing. Communication. The next thing they're looking for is critical thinking. Companies are looking for hires who are not only just doing exactly what they're told to do, but are thinking, what is the overarching goal of what I'm working on right now? And is the way I'm working on it actually the most effective way to accomplish that goal? So folks that can think about those things and have those conversations, also using the communication skills. The other thing companies have said they're looking for is some level of cultural understanding. So that's where equity and inclusion comes into play, that kind of falls under that category. They want hires who can engage with different types of people and be able to make things work well, to have that understanding and appreciation for the fact that there are differences amongst people in the workplace. And they're also looking for folks with some level of leadership. And this goes hand in hand with that critical thinking, not just doing, oh, this is only what I've been told to do, but thinking critically about it. And when there's an opportunity and it's appropriate, also taking control of situations to make things maybe even better than they already are. Another important thing that companies are looking for is professionalism. So there may be a number of potential hires out there who are talented, who have some skills, but if they aren't able to put on a certain level of polish to be able to communicate effectively, a lot of this comes back to communication, but to be able to interact with others, to have that sense of professionalism, to be able to build some sense of professional camaraderie, then all the skills in the world aren't necessarily going to matter if they can't find out a way to have the professionalism to put them into practice, to show up in time, to communicate with others well. And communication, again, is going to come back into play when we talk about teamwork as well. They want hires who aren't just going to work in a vacuum, because that's not the reality of work life in most cases. They want folks who know how to interact with others, who have experience doing so. And finally, technology. This one just keeps getting more and more important, but hires are looking for new hires who, even if they don't know the specific software, the specific technologies that the company is using at that time, have the ability to learn. They have some level of awareness with technology where they have the ability to figure some things out or at least pick things up quickly when trained. So these are our NACE competencies that, again, companies nationwide have said, we are looking for students and recent graduates who have these skills. So for companies who are wondering, okay, why should I be excited about how micro-internships allow students to build career readiness? It's because this is a low-lift, exciting way for you to be able to get on-demand project support while simultaneously helping students and recent graduates build these skills. And the proof that micro-internships do this is in the data. So what we are seeing right now is a graph that's showing us the micro-internship impact on NACE competencies. And this is for each of the NACE competencies, data collected from our post-micro-internship survey. So when we go back, we see this post-micro-internship checklist that we were looking at before. One of the first things we encourage students to do is take a survey where we ask, how was your experience? How do you feel like this impacted your career readiness? And we ask them to select from a few options. One is for each of these competencies, they could say, I improved a lot. They could say, I improved a little. They could say, I don't know that I changed in terms of ability, but I built confidence. Or they could say, no, this micro-internship didn't have any impact on my abilities in this area at all. So we just want to highlight before we delve a little bit deeper into this data, what we are seeing across every single competency is the most likely response, the response selected most often, is these micro-interns feel through this experience that they have improved a lot. The second most likely response in every single competency is that they feel they improved at least a little. And again, for every competency, the third most likely thing that they're going to select is, well, I don't know that I changed in terms of ability, but I know that I built confidence. And you can see for everyone, there are a few that may not feel like they changed at all, but the vast majority of micro-interns are reporting that I improved as a result of this micro-internship. And here's where I want to take a quick moment to acknowledge, we all know that there have been conversations, or I imagine most of us know, that there have been conversations about the difference in what companies think students are bringing, recent graduates are bringing, and how students and recent graduates assess themselves. So want to make it clear, this isn't students just saying, oh, this is where I think I stand in terms of this ability based on nothing, based on just my own assumptions. They're not, labeling themselves, I'm the best at this ability or I'm the worst at this ability. They are rating improvement. So I just want to make sure we take the time to appreciate that regardless of where a student or recent graduate started when they first got their micro-internship, the majority of the time, they are feeling that they are improving, regardless of what level they started. And this just highlights that the more experiences they're able to get, the more micro-internships, the more traditional internships, whatever type of experiential learning they're able to engage in, but micro-internships for sure, because we see the data here, it's giving them that opportunity to see and recognize growth. So going to the big picture, want to make sure we're delving into this data a little bit deeper in terms of overall impact for micro-internships and career readiness. We are seeing that essentially 98.9, so basically 99% of those who have taken our post-micro-internship survey have said that they improved or built confidence in at least one area. So there is only 1.1% that is going through a micro-internship and saying, I didn't improve, I didn't build confidence, nothing happened. The vast majority are seeing these improvements. And it's not just, for the most part, seeing improvement in one area. 87% of post-micro-internship responses have indicated that they have improved in 3 or more of these competencies. So just going back as a reminder, there are 8 of these total. So 87% are saying, okay, for nearly half of these, I'm improving or I'm building confidence. And just want to get some more detail into this improvement across all competencies. So when we're looking at these different charts, the lighter green is sharing that these micro-interns reported improvement in this competency. The darker green is saying no reported improvement. So maybe they built confidence or maybe they didn't change at all, but the green is I improved in this area. So highlighting with these different charts that for every single NACE career competency, every last one, more than half of the responses have indicated that there was improvement in that area. And I want to recap again. These NACE career competencies are what companies are saying we need to see from our new hires. These are the skills we need in our workforce. So if you are in charge of hiring that next workforce, of building that pipeline, of finding these students, the proof is right here, regardless of the talent and where they're starting. Micro-internships are a great way to help them build these skills. Also want to take some time to highlight our areas of most improvement. So these are the competencies where career launchers said, I feel like I made the most change, or the most career launchers said that they were experiencing change. So number one here is communication. That tends to be our big winner through and through. And you noticed when we were going through those competencies earlier, this makes sense because communication is relevant to just about every single one of these. When companies are saying we want students who are going to be able to know who they are and where they want to go, well, that's really only helpful if they can communicate it to their supervisors. When it comes to critical thinking, again, really only helpful if they can communicate what they've realized, what they've understood. Same for equity and inclusion, leadership, teamwork. All of these require communication. And that is why it is so exciting to us at Parker Dewey, again, coming from our higher education backgrounds, that this is the area where recent micro interns are most likely to say they improved. And even if they didn't feel that they improved, out of the options of saying, oh, I didn't improve, but I built confidence, or there was no change at all, you can see they're significantly more likely to share that they built confidence. Our other areas that are big winners are the career and self-development, and this makes a lot of sense because by actually getting in there, doing a real project, having a real experience, they are getting to figure out, do I see myself here? Is this something I enjoy? Is this the type of industry where I can see myself working longer term? So this is pretty obvious as to why micro-internships would help them develop in that area. Professionalism is another big winner where we see the vast majority, not just the majority, but the vast majority reporting improvement. Again, this makes a lot of sense because for a lot of students and recent graduates, especially from those underrepresented populations, a micro-internship may be their first real professional experience. It's a short-term commitment, it's a remote commitment, but it gives them a way without it being overwhelming for them to start on that professional journey, to make their first contact, to figure out what this world of work looks like. So it only makes sense that as they're going through, they feel their professionalism building, getting stronger, and growing confidence in it. Critical thinking, another great example and another area where we see more than 3/4 of micro-intern report improvement. Because again, these projects aren't a simulation. They aren't a, well, here is what a company faced and here's how it was actually handled. What would you do differently? It is, this is our actual challenge right now. This is our project. This is what we need. And while companies, we encourage you to give as much context and detail, a lot of time micro interns are figuring out, okay, we're at point A and I need to deliver at point B. How do I get from A and B? And this takes and gives them the opportunity to use those critical thinking skills, to use those best practices that they are learning in the classroom, to be able to actually apply those critical thinking skills to a real world project. And we find that that is just huge for them, huge for their confidence, and huge for their actual critical thinking ability, because they're doing something that isn't just an assignment that hasn't already been thought through a million times before. One of the examples that I really love, there was a student who said in their micro internship project, and I'll actually go ahead and bring up their success story. I believe it was Keon who was talking about, during my project, I realized that what I had been asked to do wasn't necessarily possible. And he said that was actually something really great for me to learn about. He said, I learned about restraints and restrictions that come in doing the real world project. He said, it's not like an assignment where the instructor already knows what's possible and created the assignment accordingly. Sometimes you have to find different ways to get an answer that you thought would be straightforward. And that quote right there, and I'll put the full success story in the chat if you want to read it, is an example of how that student was using critical thinking skills in a way that students don't always necessarily get to in the classroom. And then finally, those technology skills, again, continues to be more and more important every day in the workforce. But not only building a familiarity with existing technologies, but building an understanding of, okay, even if I'm not already familiar with this specific software or this platform, I have enough of a knowledge about how technology works and how to pick these things up that whether it's through training or self-exploration, I am going to be able to figure this out. And I also want to take a minute to talk a little bit about the positive impact of micro-internships on confidence. Because as we saw in those other charts, the majority of the time, for all of these, more than 3/4 of the time, recent micro-interns are reporting that they're improving. But if a micro-intern didn't feel like they improved in a specific competency, as mentioned, they're more likely to say that they built confidence than they are to say that there was no change at all. In fact, for every competency, at least 80% of the responses indicated either improvement or increased confidence. And over 90% of survey responses reported either improvement or increased confidence related to the areas you see below. And we've already highlighted why career and self-development, communication, critical thinking, professionalism, and technology are so important for companies and so important for recent graduates to be bringing into the workforce. And confidence just in itself is key. Now, the way we have it set up, reminder of what the options are when they're selecting. The options are improved a lot, improved a little, or no change, but I built confidence and no change at all. So that's why we're highlighting, improved or built confidence. But we have to imagine even those that didn't specifically say built confidence, if they feel that they improved, that's having an impact on confidence. Being able to go into an experience, maybe not exactly knowing what to expect, but coming out of it, and then being able to say, I improved in this area, is certainly building their confidence. And without confidence, we have seen the results for a number of different students. There have been a number of studies done that show they're more likely to experience imposter syndrome. It may keep them from trying different opportunities. It may keep them from applying for promotions in the future. They may be hesitant to take risks that could lead to exciting opportunities. But by doing micro-internships, by building that confidence, they're equipped to take on new challenges, and they're more likely actually to reach out for help when needed. And this is something really interesting we see in new hires and young professionals that are feeling more confident. Is if they're more confident, they're more likely to raise their hand and say, hey, I'm excited to work on this. I have a question about this aspect, or I'm not sure how to do this. Whereas those without confidence, that may lead to a snowball thinking, oh, if I don't know how to do this, maybe I shouldn't be in this role. They're going to think that I shouldn't be here because I don't know how to do. And none of that involves reaching out for help and getting the support they need to do well in their role. So just highlighting how building these skills, how building this confidence early on in their careers can help set the foundation for future success. And the proof is also in how micro-interns feel about these micro-internship experiences, with 98.7% of those who have taken the post-survey sharing, I would recommend Parker Dewey to a friend. And you can see some of the specific skills that various micro-interns, in addition to the career competency skills, have shared were beneficial for them as a result of working on their micro-internship. So we see in this first quote, the evidence of building technology abilities and adaptability. They learned new software, they learned how to experiment, how to present their work. So again, all those skills that companies are looking for, these students are getting the opportunity to not only use, but improve, to demonstrate. We also have students who are highlighting that they're more confident, that they are able to interact with professionals that they maybe wouldn't have felt comfortable doing so before. Students highlighting that doing these experiences through Parker Dewey also makes them feel more confident. They know they're legitimate projects, and their approaches to research, their critical thinking, all of those things that are ultimately making them better candidates. And if you are the companies that are engaging them in micro-internships, making them a better workforce who now, because of their micro-internship, has a relationship with your staff who has supervised them for these projects. So coming full circle, kind of circling back around for our different audiences here, what can you do with this information? What should you do with this information? So for those of you who are from educational institutions, If you are not already a Parker Dewey partner, encourage you to establish a partnership. There is no cost for these university or college partnerships. And really the whole goal of these partnerships is to allow us to help you to make it even easier for you to share micro-internships with your students, with your employers, with all parties that are going to benefit from access to these flexible, easy, not the projects themselves are easy, but easy to implement for companies, paid professional projects. The next thing, even if you're already a partner, connect with us. We want to have conversations about your unique goals. We want to have conversations about the types of companies your students want to engage. We want to have conversations about how we could help engage alumni so they can get the benefits of this while your students are also getting the benefits. So connect with us because we are always excited to have those conversations. And if you want to see some other ways that various partners are making this even easier for students and companies to engage with, attend one of our partnership webinars or our Achieving Institutional Goals webinar. You'll receive these slides after today's webinar, and this will show you all of these different events that we have coming up, where we can show you some different programs or some different ways that we can help you take the most advantage of these Parker Dewey micro-internships and accordingly help your students build the experiences that are going to set them up to be successful in the workforce. For companies, one of the first things we encourage you to do is see for yourself how easy this is. So post a micro-internship. If you have a project need on your mind right now, this is a great time to get it out there, to see how this works, and to see that micro-intern not only do a great job on the project, but see them develop even during the course of this short few weeks project. We also encourage you to connect with us as well. If you have unique needs, maybe you work in a unique industry, you're not sure how to make something a micro-internship, I cannot emphasize enough how happy we are to have the conversation and figure out how we can support you with Parker Dewey micro-internships. And very similar to our options for our partner schools, we want you to learn more as well. If you want to see another demo, if you want to see more details, we have monthly employer webinars. Maybe there's a member of your team that you think this would be really beneficial for that wasn't able to be here today. Encourage them to join us just a little bit later this week. We also have regularly state of campus recruiting webinars where we talk about some of the challenges that different folks are facing. So we encourage you to see what ones we have coming up and to join us. And also watch the recap of last week's webinar because it was a really great conversation with a representative from HCA Healthcare and how they've used micro-internships to find new talent, to engage and help build those skills. So with that, folks, I am going to open it up for questions in case there are any about the data that we've seen today or any need for brainstorming about how you can use micro-internships. But while we wait for those questions to come through, feel free to put those in the chat or raise your hand so I can allow you to speak. Just want to say thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We sincerely appreciate it, and we hope that you all are excited to use these micro-internship opportunities to both build skills in the workforce that you want, as well as for our educational partners to help your students and recent graduates be that workforce that companies are looking for. Thanks so much.